Hi everyone, I'm Steve Holl. I'm the Principal Architect for Product Management in Cisco Customer Experience, also known as CX, and I'm part of the team that helps with the Cisco IQ. This video will be specifically diving into the assessments application. This is a common framework for measuring conformance of devices against a set of rules. Effectively, this allows for management of your devices to standards or expectations, or maybe a set of compliance rules, helping you to proactively mitigate or minimize their operational risk.
So now we're going to take a look at the assessments application. So let's dive into this. The goal of the assessments application is really for me to have a controlled way to be able to measure my risk across my assets, identify opportunities for optimization or improvement, reduce that risk of that asset, and be able to manage that effectively. So again, like in our other applications, when I go into the application, the first thing I'm greeted with is an overview page. This presents a dashboard where I can see some summarization and some high-level metrics around the different types of assessments that we can currently run across the estate. And all of these charts are interactive, so I can click on a chart and I can drill into that chart, and then I can get presented the underlying data that's supportive of that specific chart. You can see on the left-hand side, we've got 4 assessment types that we're able to go run today. And as new assessment types become available and we release those, this list will continue to grow and you'll be able to see additional assessment capabilities show up here. So let's take a look at one of these assessments. I personally like to start with a configuration assessment. So let's go to configuration. What this does, you can read more about it here, but the configuration assessment assesses your assets against the recommended best practices for certain configurations. You can see here, we've got over 700 rules right now regarding configuration best practices. These rules can apply across 518 of my assets based off of the software types and categories of the devices that I have in my estate matched against the configuration best practice rules that we have in IQ today. You can see here that I can take a look at each one of these configuration best practice rules, and then I can see how many assets were evaluated and how many passed or didn't pass. If I don't have active telemetry or haven't recently pulled the configuration off of a device, that device will show up as inconclusive in the result, and then non-applicable would show up if we have any devices that don't match the criteria for this rule. So I can drill into one of these reports. What I like to demonstrate is this memory utilization one. So this configuration best practice takes a look and sees if you've got a memory reservation threshold set. This is useful in scenarios where the device might be running low on memory, and then it can kind of protect critical system functions for still having that memory and minimizing that disruption. You can see here, I've got a bunch of devices that didn't pass, don't have configuration best practice applied. Then I can drill into one of these devices, and you can see some evidence and findings around the result specific for this asset. And we also can provide a recommendation around the configuration that you need to apply to remediate this issue. Here, we've conveniently generated the configuration that you need to apply in order to go move this into a conformant state. In the future, we'll have the ability to easily apply these configurations by having a button to click, then go push that configuration out to that device with your authorization. But right now, easy to just click that, copy that, log into the device, and apply the configuration. And then when we rerun this assessment during the next scheduled configuration pull of this device, then this device would move out of a non-conformant state and into a conformant state for this configuration best practice. Now, other assessments behave the same way. So we could go to security advisories up here, and we can see again, we've got a list of security advisories. So these are critical vulnerabilities that have been announced. And then I can drill into one of these vulnerabilities, and I can see the devices that are exposed, some information about this vulnerability itself. I can click on specific details of a device. I can see the software version that's running. And then I can work towards understanding the details of the security advisory by clicking on this link, seeing what version it's fixed in, and then moving to a software version that has remediation for this. We can also assess for security hardening opportunities. So this is an assessment against our Cisco operating system hardening guides. So these are pulled from Cisco.com's documentation, all parsed out into rules for you. As we update the best practices for security hardening on Cisco.com, these rules will automatically update so that you don't have to manage security hardening best practices in the configuration management system. And you can easily understand when you've got some devices that have opportunities to be hardened from a specific security best practice. Again, I can drill into one of these devices. Maybe we'll just do this one for minimum password length. And I can see some information about the security assessment. And then with the finding, I can see some specific evidence around this device not having a password length enforcement that is 8 characters or higher. And then I can also see a recommendation around how to go and move this to compliant state. So again, offering me the configuration that I need to apply to go move this to conformance. And finally, we can take a look at our field notice assessments. So very similar to the security advisories assessment, we've got a list of important field notices, both at the hardware and the software level. I can drill into one of them, and then I can see devices that are affected or not affected, or in this case, you see some devices that are potentially affected because we don't have enough information in Cisco IQ today to be able to deterministically say if it is conclusively affected or not. So we're saying that it's likely affected, would need some further investigation. We can drill into that. And then you can see here that there's some information saying that we're basically only matching this up with product ID right now. We're unable to verify any further the exposure of this field notice, so that you would manually need to validate whether this is exposed. And then you could open up the field notice, understand more information about this field notice, how to go validate if we have exposure to this, and then we can action that accordingly. Now, finally, I want to walk through the findings by asset page. So this is a very useful page because instead of the other screens that are showing me a specific rule and then what devices are conformant or not conformant towards that rule, findings by asset allows me to look at a device-centric view of these opportunities or risks that are being uncovered through assessments and their conformance or lack thereof. I can pick a specific device, drill into it, and then again, I've got a nice kind of overview and dashboard around some stats around this. So I can see like how many security advisories on this device are critical or high. Same thing with security hardening rules. But the more important sections are if I go to these tabs, it gives me a list for every security advisory that I have exposure for on this specific device. And also I can take a look at security hardening. And again, just like with security advisories, I can see a list of all the security hardening opportunities that we have exposure for on this device. And likewise, all of our assessment findings will show up here, so configuration as well as field notices.
So that's some of the stuff that you can do with the assessments application. If you're interested in getting more insights around your assets, or you need to get support assistance with an assessment finding on a specific asset, check out our videos around the assets application and the supports application to help you with those. And if you haven't yet onboarded in Cisco IQ, we've also got a video to help you get started on that.